In this video, I will be breaking down and explaining how I got the tone in my Lithium cover video. I've seen Lithium referred to as the quintessential Nirvana song. I honestly don't blame those who see the song that way. With its quiet verses and loud chorus dynamics, heavy distorted guitar tone, bouncy bass lines, and extremely catchy and memorable vocal melodies, I could see the argument for why this song is the quintessential Nirvana song. Supposedly, in the early days when Nirvana was just starting out, Kurt would ask,
"How successful do you think a band could be if they mixed really heavy Black Sabbath with the Beatles?"
"Well, Kurt, I think you proved it yourself that works." That quote is personified in this song. The heavy guitar tone and the pounding drums show the Black Sabbath influence, while the vocal melodies have the same memorable pop sensibility that many Beatles songs have. This is one of the few Nevermind songs that we have great concrete and verified info on what gear Kurt used. Let's first break down what we know he used as of early 2023, and then I'll show what I'm using, my settings, and what I have going on in my audio software, Pro Tools. Producer Butch Vig is quoted as saying that for Lithium, they used a Fender Bassman and Electro-Harmonix Big Muff to get a thumpy, heavy sound. The distorted tone is uniquely dark and thick for Nirvana. I don't think there's any other tone on their studio albums that get that heavy. I'd say the closest would maybe be Blue on Bleach, and the live In Utero tour tone. So we know that Kurt used a Big Muff, but exactly which Big Muff model is an entire debate. To be transparent, I wasn't that familiar with Big Muffs before researching which pedal I needed for Lithium. My friend John, a fellow Nirvana gearhead, is a Big Muff expert and helped guide me through the overwhelming world of Big Muffs. I was so surprised to learn that there are so many different versions of it. I wouldn't have known where to start without his advice, so big shout out to him. From what I gathered, depending on what camp you're in, it's generally believed that Kurt either used a classic big box muff, a ram's head, triangle muff, or Russian Big Muff. I've seen and read a lot of speculation and guessing that Kurt himself owned a Big Muff and it was one of the first three, but I have yet to find verified info that backs that up. If anyone has a source for which Big Muff Kurt might have owned, please post it in the comments. I'd love to see it because I couldn't find any. Butch himself, though, has said that he brought his Russian Big Muff to the Nevermind sessions. It's not a stretch to think that Kurt used Butch's Big Muff. This being the only concrete info I could find in relation to which one Kurt used is why I went with the modern Russian Big Muff Pi. I watched various videos comparing the new reissues of all four of those Big Muffs, and to my ears, I heard Lithium the most in this one. This has quickly become one of my favorite pedals. If you're familiar with my channel, you know how much I love and obsess over Nirvana tones. But for my own writing and when I'm playing for fun, I've always preferred thick and dark stoner-esque tones, and this pedal is perfect for that. These are the settings that I used for Lithium. This pedal and other pedals Kurt used are available in my Amazon storefront. My storefront will be linked here and in the video description. I also used my Electro-Harmonix Polychorus for the cleans. I'm going to stress though that Kurt Cobain did not have a Polychorus at the Nevermind sessions. He did not have one until 2 years later on the In Utero tour, but here's why I used mine. While mixing Nevermind, Andy Wallace used a Yamaha SPX 90. This is a multi-effects processor that was released in 1985. Yamaha intended it to be an affordable piece of studio outboard gear, but it went on to become a classic that is still sought after and held in high regard to this day. It has a wide array of effects, such as delay, echo, vibrato, flanging, chorus, phasing, and pitch change, among others. It's been said that Andy used this primarily on bass throughout the entire album, to give it more movement within the mixes. But it's been long believed that he used it on Kurt's guitar in Come As You Are and Lithium, specifically on symphonic mode. I was close to buying an SPX 90 for these tone videos, but I thought it would be cool to see if there was a way to recreate this tone with pedals instead of outboard gear, just in case anyone out there was trying to recreate this tone live. I do not have a Fender Bassman. I used my Fender Tone Master Twin Reverb. I use different settings for both clean and distortion, which is why my cover is broken up into two guitar takes. These are my clean amp settings. And these are my distorted amp settings. So while we know what amp was used, and we know that a Big Muff was used, we don't know for certain which guitar was used. But we do have this picture. This is the Stratocaster that Kurt destroyed during the recording of Endless Nameless. That song came from a failed Lithium take. The band kept speeding up during the choruses, and after some takes, Kurt became super frustrated and launched into the jam that later became Nevermind's secret track. So we can say with confidence that there are outtakes of Lithium where this guitar was used. Obviously, the final Lithium take happened after, so this is not the exact guitar that was used on it. But we can speculate that this was the tone that Kurt wanted for the song. So I think it's safe to guess that he replaced this guitar with another Strat with a humbucker and used that. I've seen some people say that the Vandalism Strat is this guitar's replacement, but there is currently no verified info regarding that. But with all this taken into consideration, I think that this is enough info to say that Kurt maybe recorded Lithium with an HSS Strat. I am using my Fender Vandalism Stratocaster. This is actually my very first guitar. It started out as a Squier Stratocaster, and over the years I modded it slowly to Vandalism specs. It has a Seymour Duncan 59N humbucker in the bridge position, just like Kurt's. I wanted to upgrade the single coils, so I got Fender Tex-Mex pickups for the neck and middle position. That's not technically accurate to Kurt's. His would have been a stock Fender Strat single coils, but I love the sound of the Tex-Mex. This is probably my favorite guitar for cleans because of them. I switched out the neck to a made in Mexico Fender Stratocaster neck. Now for the cosmetic side of the guitar, it has a road-worn Vandalism sticker, and I relicked it with a box cutter. I had no idea what I was doing, but I am happy with how it came out. But speaking of the Vandalism sticker, I have recently partnered with ChrisStore.com, who makes the most accurate Vandalism stickers. They offer them in both clean and road-worn editions. If you use my coupon code Nirvana Guitars, you can get 2 for the price of 1. The store will be linked here and in the video description. Now here's what I have going on in my audio software Pro Tools. I have 1 single clean track and 2 distorted tracks that are panned hard left and right. What you saw in my video during the distorted parts is my first take that you hear in the left channel. Here are the plugins that I have on the clean track. Channel Strip EQ. I have a frequency analyzer on the official track, and I tried to copy the boosts that are present in the intro when it's just the clean guitar. Pickguard Mid-Range EQ to really shape the mids in detail. SansAmp PSA-1 to try to emulate the almost metallic-y sound on the official track. I'm not sure how else to describe it. The Doubler 2 to give a subtle doubling effect, and the Kramer Pi compressor to regulate the volume between the palm muted chords and when the higher strings are picked. Here's what I have going on the distorted tracks. Channel Strip EQ that I again tried to copy the frequency analyzer, but it was tricky since every time there's distorted guitar, there's also drums and bass. Pickguard Mid-Range EQ to shape the mids again. The Pickguards are my favorite EQ plugins. SSL EQ that's really doing the heavy lifting EQ-wise, adding a good amount of lows and recreating that distinct high end that we hear in the official track. NS1 Noise Suppressor. Because of the amount of highs I was pushing through the SSL, the fuzziness became overwhelmingly pronounced. So with this, I'm dialing back the harsh fuzziness while still retaining all the EQ. Finally, the one knob fatter, just to top it off with a final layer of low end. Something interesting I wanted to note is that Lithium is probably the song with the most variations on how Kurt played it. In the studio version, during the clean progression, it sounds like he palm mutes and slides from C to D and B to D like this. This specific part and how Kurt picked the entire clean progression changed a lot live depending on the era. He'd still slide from C to D, but for the B to D, he'd oftentimes go to the open D instead of sliding to the 5th fret. Here's how he played it at Paramount and on the Fall '91 tour. In the Winter '91 tour in Europe, he'd sometimes just strum the entire progression like he did at Paradiso. Then we get to the In Utero tour, where the entire song is faster, and he makes a point to really pick the last 2 strings in every chord. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Nirvana Guitars, and to subscribe and check out my other Nirvana gear videos right here on YouTube.